Hey, what's up guys, back again with another video where I'm going to show you how to build a music player application from the ground up. In this episode we're going to use Spring and Thymeleaf together to make a proof of concept front end so that we can make sure that our storage service works, and also just to show you how on a basic level this application is going to work so that we can play songs. And then after this episode, after we prove that we can play songs, we're going to make a REST API on this Spring backend application. And then finally, we're going to build the front-end application using ReactJS and hook into that REST API to, bring everything together to make it full stack with a front-end separate application, and this is the backend here. So this is like I said, a proof of concept thing so that we can prove that it actually works and we're actually able to play songs from our storage, okay? All right, so what we're going to do first is make a new package here called controller, or controllers, because we'll have multiple controllers. And inside of that controllers package, we're going to have a new Java class called index controller. So this controller here will be the web controller in terms of the MVC pattern, MVC model view controller. And we're going to annotate this class here as a controller. So hopefully when we go to the index route on our website, it should route the HTTP request to this controller here, and this is where we're going to handle it. So what we're going to do is make a Git mapping. So any Git request made to the index route hopefully should be routed here. So we're going to return public string Git homepage. You can call the method whatever you want. And we also need a parameter here. It's going to be a model, and we're going to use that model to pass data to the view. So the reason we're returning a string here is because we can use Spring Web along with Thymeleaf here, which is a view template engine, to return the name of a page. So we can just specify the name of a page that we want to send them to. So we're going to do index. So we don't have an index page. So what we can do is create a new index.html page. If you go down to resources here and then into templates, new HTML file, index. There we go. And this is just a normal HTML page, but since we're using Thymeleaf in our application, remember we imported it as one of our Spring dependencies right here. This is essentially a template engine type of thing that you can use within your views here, aka your HTML page, to essentially mix in Java code, or not Java code, but you can bring Java data like objects from the model into your page. And we'll see that in a second, but essentially we can mix data into the page, which will then be translated all to HTML and then served to the browser. Okay, and if you're not, too familiar on, Spring Web and Thymeleaf and all that, then I recommend you check out some tutorials on that. I don't have, at the time of this recording, I don't have any tutorials myself on this, but I will in the future in my Spring tutorial. So make sure to check to see if I made some videos if you're watching this at a later date. Anyway, so we're going to give this homepage here, our index.html page, then the title, so music archive, because that's the name of this application. And inside of this, we can have whatever we want. Let's just have something basic just so we can make sure that it works. We'll display music archive welcome. Okay, so hopefully when the user is served this page here, this HTML, they should see music archive welcome on their screen. So if we go back to our index controller here, the reason we're doing return index, we don't even need .html, by the way. That's not needed. It's basically implied. Essentially what this will do is Spring Web will recognize that index is one of our templates here. So it's going to send this model here, even if it's empty, to the index page. And if it has any Thymeleaf code to run, it'll run it. So right now there's no Thymeleaf code inside of here. It's just a normal HTML page. So what it's going to do is take that HTML page and then return it in the HTTP request back to the browser so the user will see this page. Okay, so yeah, very, very simple web controller. All you're doing is telling it what page to give back to the user, essentially. That's the way you can think of it. And we're not going to use the model yet. We'll wait before using that. First, let's just check this out, test this out to see if it works, and let's see if they can visit the homepage without any issues. Okay, looks like everything started up. It's still printing out our files down here, by the way. But if you look closely here, it should say it started on port 8080. Yeah, it looks like it says Tomcat initialized with port 8080. Great. So our embedded web server should be running on port 8080. So if we want to see this web page, we should be able to go to our browser and type localhost, 8080. And let me show you. Here we go. So we got localhost at the top here, :8080. That's our website route, essentially our index route. That's how we can visit our website, because that's the port that the web application is running on at the moment. So if you can actually change the port if you want to, but we're not going to focus on that this episode. But the point is, look at this. Look, we have our HTML page served to us. So it's so this means that the web controller is able to recognize that it needs to show the index page. So what it's doing is it's getting the index page.html page from the templates folder and showing it to you. Great. So now let's see how we can put data into this page, aka song data and stuff like that, to spice it up. Okay? And for that, we're going to use the model. The model is used to pass data from your controller to your template. So we can do model.addAttribute. And if we want to add an attribute, it's basically a key value pair. So we can give our attribute a name. Let's say that we want to call our song keys, or we can call it songs. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Let's go back to our our storage service here to see what this returns. Let's remind ourselves. So our get song file names returns a list of all the song file names. So we can just call this, how about song file names? How about that? And then the data that we're going to pass into here will be the data returned by this method. So how can we call this method from our storage service and the index controller class? So index controller here, this is basic Spring knowledge, is actually a bean of its own. It's a component by Spring, managed by Spring. So what you can do is inject that storage service, which is also a component or a service by Spring, into the index controller so you can use its service methods. So what we can do, there's different ways you can dependency injection using Spring. You can inject it using the field. You can do constructor injection. Constructor injection is the most recommended version of injection. So we're going to do that. So we're going to do private, final, storage service. And to inject it by the constructor, we're going to make a new constructor for this class here. Boom, boom, we're passing in the storage service. And we're setting the storage service. That's why it's final, because you're setting it in the constructor here. So then we're also going to mark this constructor as auto-wired, just to explicitly tell Spring that what we want Spring to do is when Spring makes a new instance of index controller, when the application starts, it's also going to find an instance of storage service and put it into the constructor when it's creating the instance of index controller. So it's injecting an instance of storage service, which is one of the dependencies of this class here, into the class when it's instantiating it, because this is a constructor. So that's basically how dependency injection works, and that will allow us to use storage service within our application. So we're going to go here and do storage service dot find or get song file names. There we go. So now we have all of the song file names available to us, returned as a list of strings, and we're setting it into our model using add attribute. So we're setting the name of the attribute and then the actual data itself. So it's a key value pair essentially. So remember, we're using the MVC pattern. So MVC, model, view, controller. So the way this is going to work is when you make a request to, let's say, the index page, it's going to be sent to this controller here, which is one element of MVC. And this controller here has a specific Git mapping for the index route. So it's going to come here, and then we're going to grab the song file names and set it into the model. And the model is then going to be passed into our index. So the index is the view, and then the model is, of course, the model. The model is essentially our carrier or a representation of our data that we're passing between the controller and the view. So when we pass this model data to the view here, the index.html page, we're going to take that data and then display it on the page somehow, or manipulate how the page is displayed. We can do any of that. And to do that, we're going to be mixing in Thymeleaf code, or I don't know if it's code, but it's more of like a scripting type of thing. Whatever, right? But yeah, it's going to be done using Thymeleaf code. And so once the data is sent from the model or the controller using the model to the view is going to be translated using that Thymeleaf engine into HTML page, which is then sent to the browser, because of course the browser only understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript at a core level. Those are the basics, right? The browser will not understand Thymeleaf, which is the main point. Thymeleaf is very powerful because it lets you do all of that. It lets you use Java objects and Java data inside of your HTML pages. Really cool. Anyway, that's enough rambling for now. Sorry about that. Just have to make it clear to you if you don't understand how this works. But hopefully you're understanding this already. If you're watching this episode, you should have a basic understanding of Spring Web. So yeah, our data is going to be passed, but we're not doing anything with the data yet because we don't have any Thymeleaf code here. So what we're going to do is try and design a simple web page just to demonstrate this. I'm not very good at design, so we're going to give this a try. We're going to be using Tailwind CSS, which is a CSS framework similar to like Bootstrap. It's not very similar because Bootstrap has a bunch of pre-made elements that you can use and stuff like that, components. But Tailwind CSS is essentially a suite of classes that you can use on your elements to achieve styling. It's really, really cool. It allows you to make custom, elements really easily using the Tailwind CSS framework. So we're going to use that in our project. You don't have to be an expert with Tailwind CSS if you're watching this. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to use something else like Bootstrap or even your own CSS styling, you can. It's really up to you. The whole point of this video is not to show you how to use this. It's just part of the video. It's just how we're going to make our page look decent. Okay, so we're going to first get our Tailwind CSS CDN so we can use it within our Bootstrap, or not Bootstrap, excuse me, our page here. So we're going to find installation and then go down to using Tailwind CSS via CDN. Okay, so we're going to copy that CDN link, go back here, and then in our head, we're going to paste that. So hopefully when we use Tailwind CSS classes, it should automatically use the styling available from here. So to style our page. All right, so now let's just set up a basic styling here. So we're going to have a div. This is going to be the header of our web page. So we're going to have a div, and then inside of that, we're going to have an h1 tag that says music archive. So just like the main label of the header. And then under that, we'll have some sort of image just for our application. Let me find one on the internet real quick. All right, I found the best image ever. You'll see what it looks like in a second. It's a bit of a surprise. Okay, and then under that, we'll do this later. We'll have a link to be able to upload songs. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what this looks like. It's very basic. We haven't done any Tailwind CSS yet. We'll just go ahead and see how this looks so far. All right. And that's what it looks like. So very, very ugly, but now you can see that the Tailwind CSS is actually automatically applied, even though we didn't use any Tailwind CSS classes. It does give our text a default styling, which is cool. And our image is, SpongeBob. Kind of cool, I guess. Anyway, so let's also make this a dark application. So not like light mode, it'll be dark mode. So we're going to do class BG gray 800. That should be good. And if you want auto completion for Tailwind CSS, you can actually download a plugin for that. So file settings and plugins, Tailwind formatter. It's this one right here, I think. Yeah, it's this one. So Tailwind formatter, actually need to update mine. And it'll give you auto completion for your Tailwind CSS. Pretty cool. Okay, I put it on the side here so I don't have to keep switching between my screens and you can see it easier. So now let's go ahead and edit the text here just to make it look nicer. So we're going to do class text 6XL, so it's going to make it really big, and then font extra bold. So if we do reload here, should be able to see what this looks like. There's a better way so you don't have to you have to restart the application every time, but we're not going to do all that. So here we go, we got dark background, and then it says music archive. It's really big, but I can fix that. There we go. That's why it was so big, I didn't even realize. So there we go, music archive, and we're gonna make the text white. And if you don't wanna see me code all the styling out, if you're not really interested in that, then you can skip ahead. I'm just gonna really just code out all the styling, and then you can skip to the part where I start using Thymeleaf to put all the data in the application, okay? So under this, we're gonna have the main window here. So what we're going to do is have a table of all of our songs. So we're not going to code out the entire table using Tailwind CSS. We're going to use Tailwind UI, which is essentially a different type of service provided by Tailwind CSS. Same company, I believe, that gives you a bunch of components that you can copy and paste. And they're all styled using Tailwind CSS. So you got application UI components, you got e-commerce components, you got marketing components. I have bought the application UI components. You have to buy these. They're pretty cool. I use them a lot in my applications nowadays. I really just use Tailwind CSS for all of my styling needs for web development. I love it. So we're going to go to the tables section here, and we're just going to copy. We'll use this one. Simple enough. It's a very basic table here. So we'll click this. So let's give us all the code of the table, and then copy, and then we'll paste it here. Great. Okay, so now we can change the table to make it look nice for what we need it to look like. So in this table, we're gonna have two things. We're gonna have the title of the song, which is provided in the model here. So we're getting each of the song file names, So that'll be the first column of the table, and then the second column of the table will be the audio player so you can play the song. Okay, and like I said, this is going to be a very, very basic bare bones application. When we get to the React application, that'll be much more extensive, and it'll look like what I showed you at the beginning of this series in the introduction video. This is just a very, very basic demo application. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and see what this looks like so far. Just the table default look. Okay, it looks kind of poopy, but we'll make it look nice or decent. So we'll get rid of these unneeded columns here. So this one will be, yeah, song name. And the next one will be song audio. Just audio, we'll call it that. So get rid of all these. Okay, so here we'll have the individual song name. And then here we'll have an audio player. So we can make a new audio player, an HTML5 audio player, by doing audio. And inside of the audio, you have a source, which is how you specify the song that you're going to play. So under that, we're going to have your browser does not support the audio element. And this will appear if the browser does not support the audio element, similar to how a alt tag appears when you can't load an image on a page. Okay, and so inside of this, we're going to have the source tag and then a link to the audio that we're trying to play on the page. So this will be replaced by the link for each of our songs on the CDN. So our CDN, like I said before, in our DigitalOcean space, can serve us our song files or any file, image files, song files, whatever song file or file you're storing, right? So we're going to use those CDN links to play the song and provide it to our source here. So I've got our space here. I'm just going to delete these two files that we uploaded before, and I'm going to replace it with a song file. All right, there we go. And if you hover over this, it'll give you the origin link, which you can use to access it, as well as the edge link, which is the CDN. I believe the CDN is faster, so it's probably preferred to use the CDN, so we're just going to use that. So copy the URL, then we'll go back to our application here and put it in the source tag there. And then for type is going to be the media type. So we're going to do audio /MPEG because a MP3 file is a MPEG audio type, I believe. So now, with luck, it should give us an audio player using the source of this link here. So you should be able to play the song using the CDN link. So let's go ahead and try this out just to test it out before we actually put the data for our songs. So reload, and here we go. The audio player does not seem to show up. That's annoying. Oh yeah, so the reason it doesn't show up, we have to add controls here. So that'll hopefully give us the audio player. Sorry about that. Reload again. And now there we go, we have an audio player. So if we play this, you might be able to hear that very faintly. I don't have my audio hooked up, so you can't hear it right now, but it is playing. I think you may be able to hear it through my microphone. If you listen closely, my audio is not that loud. But the point is that it's playing. That's good. So now we know that we can, and just inject our CDN links one by one into this. Very, very good. So before we do that, though, let's finish our styling here. Let's make it look decent. So go up here first and do text center to make the heading text centered in the image. Margin of 20, rounded 2XL to give it some rounding. PY3, so a padding on the Y of 3 and then a padding on the X of 2. Let's see how that looks. There we go, looks better already. Let's actually, you can't see the rounding, so let's actually take this rounding here and apply it to the image to make the image look better. So we'll go down here to image, do class, rounded 2XL. I'm terrible at styling, as you can tell. I'm more of a backend guy than a front-end guy, to be honest. Okay, so that looks okay, just simple enough for our proof of concept application. Now let's go down here and make it look dark mode for the table here. We want to make the table look dark and also make it not like this. It looks terrible. We need to make it centered because it's not centered currently. So let's see how we can do that. Okay, so to make the image center, I think we can just do this. We can do MX auto, or no, we got to go to class. So MX auto, and that should center the image there. And then we'll add how about we add an overall centering for the entire page. So surround this with a div, and this parent div will have a class of mxAuto. So mxAuto is simply doing a margin of auto on the x-axis, so it should center everything in the middle of the page automatically as long as you have a width set. So we're going to do a width of 6/12 of the page's current size. I think that's what that should do. And then we're going to have a top margin of 20. We don't even need the top margin, actually. We'll leave that. So let's reload, and hopefully everything should be more center now. Okay, I'm back. My computer just had a heart attack. I thought it was about to crash. I was about to lose all my footage. So there we go. It looks centered now. It's a little responsive now too, which is cool. Very basic, but it gets the job done. I think it looks decent. And that's the power of Tailwind CSS. It makes you get started really easily, making nice things. Along with Tailwind UI, it gives you basic components. Could be better, but it's good enough for me for now. Okay, so now what I want to do is make it so that we can basically take each of our songs provided in the model here and then have a row in the table for each of the songs. So it'll have the song name and then the audio to play that song, okay? So we just need to use Thymeleaf to grab it. So to grab it, we're going to have a for loop for each of the rows of this table here. So this tr tag here represents each of the rows. So we're going to take this and add a tag to it that says th for Thymeleaf each is equal to key colon $, curly brackets, song, what is it, song file names? Yeah, song file names. The autocomplete is provided by IntelliJ. So I know this is very foreign looking if you've never touched Tailwind CSS or Spring Web before, but it's the equivalent of a for loop. So each is a tag that you can use to have this repeat. This entire element will repeat for each element in whatever list you provide, or it's an array in a list, whatever. And the key will be each element in the list. And since each element of the list is a string, which is a file name, this represents the file name. So we can even just call this file name. There we go. So to give that file name, to get that file name and then put it in spot of Jane Cooper, we can use another Thymeleaf tag, th text, and then do $, curly bracket, file name. So we're taking that file name variable or whatever you want to call it and putting it into the text tag for Thymeleaf. All Thymeleaf tags are preceded by a th colon. So you're taking that value and injecting it into the element as the text. So Jane Cooper will be replaced, even though it's still there, it'll be replaced by the Thymeleaf text value. So if we reload this now, we should be able to see that. There we go. So now we get stellar wind unicornheads.mp3 because that is the name of the file that we uploaded, and there's only one file. If we had multiple files, then it would show more than one row, but that's how that is so far. Okay, there we go. And now if we play the audio, it will play the song, but if you remember here, it's statically coded in. So it's always going to play that song no matter what MP3 file is provided in the row. So we want to make it so that when you click the play button, it plays the song that is actually present, not just that song every time. We don't want it to be hard-coded, is what I'm trying to say. So the way we can do that is the name. So we have this link here, https://musicarchivecodec.sfo3.cdn.digitaloceanspaces.com/. Then you have the file name. So what we can do is just replace that file name with the actual file in the row. So we'll take this source tag here and precede it with th colon. So now it's a Thymeleaf source tag. So we can cut this string here of the link for our CDN and do $, curly bracket, single quotes, paste that in, and do plus file name. So all that is doing is taking that string literal here of the CDN link and then appending it with the file name provided from the each thing here. So just like how we're using the file name here to put the name for the TD tag, we're using the file name here to add it onto the link for our source tag. So hopefully our source tag should now have the value of the CDN link plus the actual file name. So it's going to get the file name, the CDN link, and the CDN file dynamically depending on what song you provide, not just that same song every time. So let's try this out and see if it still works. Looks good so far. Yeah, still plays, no problem, right? But we don't know for sure if it's actually working. So what but we don't know for sure if it's actually working or if it's just maybe still using the old one. So we're going to get a new file and then add it to our space here so that we can test other rows and see if they use the same song or the actual song that needs to be played, okay? Okay, cool, it's uploaded now. So with luck, we don't even need to restart our application here because the code is already there. We should be able to reload this and it should show all of our songs and then allow us to play them. So let's try that out. So reload. There we go. So now we have both our songs, which is awesome. So now let's do Stellar Wind. We'll play that one. That was our first song, still works. And then now we have Early Avril, Unicorn Heads, same person. Awesome. So there we go. Now we can take any song stored in our storage space dynamically and put it on the page. Also the song name too. And that's all being done using Spring Web and Thymeleaf together. So Thymeleaf is simply taking the data, injecting into the HTML, and then serving it up as just HTML back. And yeah, it's very bare bones. It looks like doo-doo, but it's really powerful. I mean, we basically have proved that we can grab data from our storage space and we can play song using this method here. Our React application is going to be 10 times more advanced, but I think it's just good to prove that you have a basic infrastructure in place before you do anything else, just so you don't have to go back to it later on. Okay, so let me just recap over what's happening here. So again, we just have a web controller, so a simple Spring Web controller that is mapped to the index route. We didn't give it like a request mapping, so if you have different routes, you can do request mapping and give it like, if you have an API route, you can do API. So this controller will be mapped to any API routes that are called, but in this case, we're not providing one, so it's going to be mapped to the index route. So any index route call, meaning what I mean by route, by the way, if you're not curious with that terminology, I just mean that you go to the index page of your application. That's just the index route is what I call it, or /. It's really the same thing. So another route would be localhost 8080 / that would be this route. That's the name of the route. Anyway, so essentially what's happening here is when you go to the route, it's being sent, the request that you make, the HTTP request is going to be routed to this index controller here, which will then be routed to the get homepage method. In the get homepage method, we'll take all of the song file names from our storage service and put them into the model, and then this model will be sent to our index.html view, and the view has Thymeleaf code within it essentially. So all of that will be ran and injected into the page, and then it's going to return back all the HTML to give back to the user along with CSS and of course all that stuff. So it's really cool. It's a lot of systems working together to give you a web page essentially. And yeah, now that we have the ability to list songs and also play them with the music player, we need a way to test our upload system. So we're going to have like a simple form here that lets you drop a file in using a simple HTML form and a simple HTML file upload input box button thingy. And then, yeah, we're going to send that as a post request to the backend that we have and then process it and hopefully upload the song file to our DigitalOcean space. All right, so that's what we're going to try doing next. Let's go ahead and go back to the index.html code here and see if we can throw a form in there without making it look too ugly. We'll just put it right under here at the top under the image. So we're going to have a new HTML form. Okay, and this form is going to have a label. So this will be how you say what the thing that you're uploading is. Obviously it's a label, so you gotta label something. So we'll do file to upload. And that label file, label tag, we can apply some styling to that after if we need to. Now the thing that allows us to upload the file is the input here, this input box. And this will be an input of type file. Okay, simple enough, it lets you upload files. And well, that's good for now. And then finally, we'll have a button to submit it. So a submission button. So button type submit. And we'll say upload file. There we go. So let me go ahead and let's go ahead and reload this real quick so we can see what that looks like. There we go. Doesn't look too good just because of how it is so far. So let's see if we can apply some styling to this to make it look better real quick. So for the label, we're going to do a margin. Actually, let's go ahead and surround this whole thing just to keep it in its own little area. So what we'll do is we'll have, we'll set up the form in a second. So in terms of styling, we'll go to the class here and do class mx2. So that'll add a margin on the x-axis of 2. And then the input will have some more styling to make it look nicer. So class, background black, ring 1. Ring ring gray 800, text white, so it sticks out on the background. I think for the background it's not going to be black, actually. It should be whatever the other color is that we're using for the background. We'll adjust that in a second if we have to. So the font, we'll do a medium font. It's more visible, sort of sticks out, I guess. And then a padding of 1, and then rounded XL, so it's more rounded. Okay, there's that. And then now we can do the button itself. So for the button, we'll do here class BG black. We may adjust that as well. We'll see. Ring 1, ring gray 800. I believe our background is gray 800 if I'm not mistaken, something like that, so it might blend in, so that may need to be adjusted as well, but we'll see. So text white, so that sticks out better. Font medium as well. Padding of 1. Margin on the y-axis of 2. Text 2XL to make it big. Rounded XL to round the button. And then hover. We'll change the state of the styling for the button to background of white when you hover on it, and make the text black. So hover background black, and then hover text white. Or no, wait. Oh, I messed that up. So it's text BG black. Jeez, I can't talk. BG white, and then hover text black. Okay. So you'll see how that looks in a second. So text black. There we go. Okay. Whew. And then reload that, and let's go ahead and check that out to see what happens. We need to adjust it, like I said, but we'll see. Okay, let's go here. Reload. And okay, it actually looks pretty good, I think. I mean, not perfect, but it looks decent. Let's change this label here to be white. And then if you hover the button, it becomes white. So that's what I meant by that for the hover styling thingies. So it looks good, stands out, so you know that you're hovering over it, simple enough. And then this is the actual part where you put the songs that you want to upload. So let's go ahead and change that label to text white. Text white, there we go. Cool, so that'll look better. Let's go ahead and check that out. Awesome, there we go. So very simple file uploading input. So now what we want to do is go ahead and make it so that when you click upload and there's a file there, it does a post request to the backend with the file as the payload, essentially, in the body of the request, okay? So to do that, we're going to go to the HTML form tag here and change the method to post, get if you want to do a get request. And then the enc type, the encoding type will be, you have different types here, but we're going to do multi-part form dash data. So it's going to be a form data type of thing. And then action. So the action is just going to be the endpoint at which you submit this request. So we're going to do the endpoint. It'll be the index endpoint, so it should be just slash, or maybe that's just what it is by default. But just to be clear, we'll do slash, okay? And that should send it to this. And so because we're sending it to this, we should have a corresponding post request method that handles that, okay? So post mapping, public void. I don't think we need to return anything, if I'm not mistaken. Well, actually, no, we'll do a string because we do need to redirect it. You'll see what that looks like in a second. So public string handle file upload is what we'll call this. You can call it whatever you want. Now to grab the file, we're going to do a request param. So we'll grab it from the parameters being passed in. So it'll be called file, multi-part file, and then there we go, open that up. And the reason that we called it file here is because I don't think we actually did this. We need to go back and go to our form here and change the input here to have a name of file. So whenever you submit this form, the name of the input will be the name of whatever is sent to the server. So in this case, we're sending a post request to the server, and the input, which is going to be a file, will be named file because we set the name attribute to name, or file, excuse me. So now this will allow us to grab that when we're handling the request and put it into this multi-part file object, which is essentially just the Spring equivalent of a file that you grab in a request so that you can, do stuff with the file. Simple enough, right? And then we're going to take that file and send it to our storage service. So storage service upload song file, and then we'll do return, redirect, and we want to redirect to the slash route, the index route. So this redirect here is similar to this one. This one just tells you the template to send the request to, so you can render the template to the page and all that. But this one, it's redirecting to a different route. So I think what this will do is essentially it'll redirect to this. So it'll call this, and then whatever happens inside of this method here will be that's what will occur. So it'll send you again to the index route because that is what is happening there for the index. That's how it's mapped. Okay, simple enough, I think. All right, so we're also going to handle this exception now. So add exception to method signature. So if any IO exceptions happen, it'll handle it on the method. And okay, so let's go ahead and test this out. We're going to need a song so that we can upload to this. So I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a song. All right, I'm back. Make sure you reload to have the new changes. So I'm going to go back to my music archive webpage here and try uploading the file I just downloaded. It's a copyright-free file. So we're going to do, you can either choose file and grab it on your system, or if you already have it, you can drag and drop it onto here. So this will select the file or have it there, click upload, and that should upload it. So it's doing the post request, and we got a white label error page. So it's going to check out and see what the error is. It says the field file exceeds its maximum permitted size of 1,488,576 bytes. So this means that essentially when you upload a file on a web page, at least with this, using an embedded Tomcat server, it's going to limit the size of what you're trying to send in the request, which is reasonable. I guess you don't want to be able to upload anything, right? Like a giant multi-gigabyte file or something big, especially if you're trying to not overload your server with lots of storage. So if we want to override that default setting, we can go to our application properties file, excuse me, and just go down here and do Spring. Let me zoom in for you guys. Spring.servlet, because this uses servlet technology in the background. Multi-part file size. No, this one. Multi-part file, yeah, multi-part max file size. So change this to whatever file size you want. You can do it like this, so 20 megabytes. We'll make it so that anything under the 20 megabytes or 20 megabytes should be allowed for the uploading. And you could also do spring.servlet.multipart.max request size 20 megabytes. So have both of these here. I believe they're both needed, so just have these both and then set it to whatever you want for the setting. Doesn't have to be 20, it's just how I want to do it. Okay, so for example, if you know that most of your files are going to be under 20 megabytes, it's probably a reasonable idea to set it to 20 megabytes. If you're having something bigger, like a file upload source, or let's say you have something smaller, right? Let's say you have a storage service for a file. But if you have something like an image storing website where you're only storing images and uploading images, then you might want to have a smaller size. Unless they're really high quality images, then so something smaller should do, like a couple megabytes, maybe 2 megabytes, 3 megabytes. I believe that should be good enough. Okay. But yeah, so that should fix our problem for us. So let's go and reload the application here. So that should also restart the Tomcat server. And when we try redoing this here, it should work now. So let's try it again. Boom, upload file. And it's uploading, I think, I hope. There we go. So it automatically redirected us back to this index route. And we have the song here added, automatically reloaded, essentially, because the redirection did happen. So it says Bay Street Billionaires, Squatta B, whoever the hell that is, and we can play it. Awesome. Great. So there you go. That's how you can upload a file. That's pretty much all we're going to do for this episode. We know how to, display songs on a page now by retrieving them on the back end from our storage service and then sending them to our template, our Thymeleaf template. And that Thymeleaf templating engine language, or whatever you want to call it, is able to take the data sent from our controller here and then render it to the page using HTML, which is really cool. So after we display the stuff, we also upload it as we just did, okay? So yeah, hopefully you found that very interesting. This was a very simple proof of concept application. In the next few episodes, we're going to build the REST API backend, and that'll be nice. And then we'll connect it with a front end using ReactJS and other technologies. So stay tuned for that, okay? Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the description below, I'll leave a link to the code for this episode so you can check it out. You can bookmark it, come back to it later. If you forget any concepts or you just want to review the concepts I taught in this video, I'll mark everything up with comments so you can come back and read the code without having to rewatch the video, although your reviews are greatly appreciated. So yeah, I'll leave a link for that in the description below, so make sure to check it out. And another thing is I'll leave a link to our Discord server. It's a big community for programmers. You can ask for help on your programming projects if you're stuck on something, or maybe you can get some new friends. If you don't have any friends, there's lots of people here. It's growing really fast. You can find lots of people who are passionate about the same things as you. For example, if you like Minecraft spigot development, you can find lots of people who like that. If you like C++, if you like Java, if you like web development, it's a really, really big programming community. So feel free to join. There's a link for that in the description below. And the last thing I want to tell you is that if you want to support this channel, you can click the join button below this video, and you can join this channel as a member for as low as 99 cents a month, and you can cancel at any time. You get some cool perks like early access to all of my new videos, a cool rank on my Discord server like you see right here on the side, YouTube members, and also you get to see yourself on the screen like you see right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. And thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's it. So if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. And peace.